things happen. But once you've had success, how do you sustain it? How do you continue that over the long run is really big. And so for me, when I look at our long-term success, there's really two main components. And the first one is people and team. I believe that if you have the right character and the right people and the right team that are aligned in doing something, that anything is possible. And so to continue to put focus into building the team is a critical component for us as we grow, having the right people to help us grow. And then over the long term, as we win, we want our team to win. And so we're setting up our hospitality company to provide equitable pieces of our growth so that everybody is in alignment.
You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. Well, you guys are the co-founders of Howzit Hostels, and I'm so pumped because not only are we going to talk about the hostel sector of hospitality, but you guys have also done a lot of fundraising and are going to continue to do some more fundraising through your actual real estate venture. I don't know, I wouldn't call it venture, but your capital arm. And we have a packed conversation. So Slick Talkers, get ready to get your notes and tune in throughout the whole conversation. But I would love to know, we're going to start with you, Michael. Where does it all begin? How did you two meet? And where does this awesome hostel brand come to life?
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, I was recruited by Nathan. Nathan has a background as a sales leader, and he was building this awesome sales team in Hawaii. And his co-partner is his co-manager. I knew him, and so he referred me, and Nathan gave me a call and recruited me to come and work out in Maui. I was actually living in San Diego at the time, so I came out to Maui to work with Nathan. And the goal was to be in Maui for a year, maybe for two. I knew that I wanted to earn enough money to be able to purchase real estate. This was in the wake of the Great Recession, and so there was this opportunity to buy homes. And I had this goal: I was going to go out there to Maui, I was going to work, I was going to earn, and I was going to purchase 5 homes. And so within about, I would say, a year and a half of living out there in Maui, I had purchased 3 homes. And then the market was kind of adjusting. And so I was like, all right. I mean, I was doing well. I was crushing it in the sales game. Nathan's an awesome leader. I mean, he's known in his world, maybe in the hospitality world, he's emerging, but he is the man when it comes to the sales world. He is pretty much world renowned. So I had the great fortune to work with him under his tutelage, and really I was able to make a lot of money. And so I was able to use that money to buy these homes. And when the market started shifting a little bit, I was purchasing homes in Southern California, and they were dirt cheap after the Great Recession. And so I was able to buy them with hard money and then refinance. I made a pivot into short-term rentals. I saw an opportunity in Maui where at the time it was a little bit like the Wild West. People were just renting these homes. They didn't have the permits. They didn't have everything legitimate. And I could see the writing on the wall that the county of Maui was going to start to enforce the rules and regulations of short-term rentals. And I thought, well, this is an opportunity. If I go about it the right way and I do everything above board and I secure a vacation rental permit, there's just so much demand. I penciled the numbers. It was funny. I was like a crazy man. I would like write these numbers, what I saw, like what people were doing, like the movie, like A Beautiful Mind. Like I kept writing the numbers on a piece of paper over and over. Like, I can't even believe, is this real? Is this possible? And, I was about to purchase this home and I was like, really, honey? Like I'm married. So I was like, should we do this? And she's like, you're crazy. You just keep writing the same numbers over and over like they're going to change. They're right. They're right. So we ended up pulling the trigger. We bought a vacation rental home at the time. It was just a home, but I went through the process. I got the permitting. It took about a year and a half. It's a burden. It's a hassle, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to expedite this story. We bought another one because you can have one per person. So I had one in my name, one in my wife's name. And so, although I was working with Nathan, crushing the sales game, I had my exit. I saw that if I could buy these vacation rental homes, the cash flows would be just, I mean, it would get me out of the work game. I could retire from my W-2 and I could rely on the income from these vacation rentals because, they do about $700,000 a year. They're
Yeah.
freaking awesome on 2 rentals. And I would continue to buy short-term rentals if I could. I love them. And
Yeah.
the other short-term rentals on Maui, like, basically apartments or condos, they're not really the same. I bought 4-bedroom rental homes, and they're unique in that there's not that many of them, so it's a different ball game, and so I saw the writing on the wall, and working with Nate, he had an interest in real estate. We aligned a lot, not just in our personalities and being, colleagues, but we both had a passion for real estate, and we knew that, "Hey, we wanna team up." I was working my way out of my W-2 job. And before I ultimately left, I just started, talking with Nate and saying, "Hey, look, what can we do together? How can we invest together? Because we're like-minded. We share a lot of the same values, a lot of the same interests. We have a lot of complementary skill sets. How can we partner?" And I don't know. Do you want me to pass it over to Nathan? Because he might have a little bit of a different spin on this version, but I want to give him the opportunity to weigh in too.
Let's go to you, Nate. Let's go from sales leader to hospitality entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Good. Maybe let's pick off where Mike left off. All right, Slick Talkers. Sorry to interrupt. As you know, great partners at Minute have sponsored this episode. They sponsor the show. So every episode is filled with amazing minutes. No pun intended. So if you don't know who Minute is or what they do, we see that we have a lot of new Slick Talkers out there in the world. So, one, thank you for tuning into the show. Every listen, every time you hit play means so much to me and to my team. So, thank you. But if you are new, Minute is an amazing noise detection device. Not only do they measure noise decibel levels inside of your vacation homes or your hotels, they actually can detect smoke. Not only that, if you're an outdoor kind of a unique stay person or just have an amazing outdoor amenities for your guests from pools to hot tubs to cookout pads, all the stuff, they have an outdoor sensor that is specifically made for outdoor noise because I didn't know this, but noise outside and noise inside actually makes a difference. So you don't have to worry about constantly making sure, are people partying at your place? Are the cleaners there? Or like whatever, kind of issue might happen, you can get that peace of mind with Minute at your side. So as you grow, Minute will grow with you. They have an amazing team of support and they have an amazing technology from hardware and the software. When the two marry, it's just a beautiful combination. We use Minute in all of our vacation homes and hotels with our management company, and it's the best decision we've made because we are so dispersed and we are so spread out that having Minute just is a necessity for our operations. So get with Minute, go to the link in the show notes, let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you. They'll give you a sweet deal. And of course, you know the drill. We're back to the episode, and I hope you enjoy.
The one thing about leading a sales team is there are parallels between all of what it takes to go and be 100% commission based, what you have to do. You're leading your own business. You really are. And everything depends on really you and what you put into it. All of the characteristics that don't have anything to do with talent, when you can go and apply all of those. And then if we always called it was our testing ground. So
Mm.
we got to go and say, all right, let's go create a vision that everybody would say is impossible. And then let's go crush it. And we did that. Year after year, we studied dynasties, and what that did is it really prepared us for this next journey. And I recruited Mike. We knew that if someone had a big enough why, then ultimately they would dig in and get it done. And Mike had a very strong why, and
Mm.
it was freedom. It was financial freedom, and that aligned with a lot of the guys on our team, including myself. And so, like Mike said, we had we both had passion for real estate, and we both had passion for wealth building. We both had passion for freedom, and we also knew that we wanted to do something big. And we
Mm.
felt like we had a better shot of doing that by, although we share and we're aligned with a lot of things, we also found that we had complementary skill sets, right? There were areas that I may be strong in that maybe weren't Mike's complete strengths and vice versa. And so when you put those things together, when you know someone's character, when you're aligned in what you're wanting to accomplish, and when you've worked together for, as long as we had, we said, let's go do it. But I want to now go back to his short-term rentals because
Yes.
he's right. I remember those pieces of paper, by the way, that those numbers, he would sit down and he'd get weigh in from all of us. He'd be like, is this 300? And they were the same over and over and over. And but what that also did is it was like, oh my gosh, like dang. Like, and then he went and did it. And then not only did he go and do it, but it was real. And so there was always this constant comparison to what Mike was doing with short-term rentals. And so
Mm,
we had this vision, we decided to partner, and we knew that we felt like the scalability of the short-term rentals with the restrictions, the regulations, we saw the writing on the wall and we're like, man, it
yeah.
sucks, but we're not going to be able to scale this here. And so we went through an education, like a multifamily education course, and we decided to start purchasing apartment buildings together. But we wanted to do it here locally. We felt like, man, we're 2,500 miles off the California coast out here in Hawaii, and we were more comfortable with our first one starting here in Hawaii. And the first property that we made a phone call on, in the description, it said part of it was previously run as a hostel. And we're
Mm,
like, "What? A hostel?" And anyway, we wanted to do apartment buildings, right? And this at the end of the day, this property, it went into contract, but this idea of the hostel, we had mentioned to the real estate agent. We're like, what is this hostel idea? And he grabbed that, like, he's like, oh my gosh, they're interested in this. And so then he started recognizing that, oh my gosh, these guys, they care about hospitality. Mike's got his short-term
mm,
rentals. And here the seed was born of, well, if we could find more approachable real estate cost through apartment building or some type of non existing hotel or resort, but take the short term rental model and then scale it into hostels, which we saw in this business model. We're like, maybe that's the way, because at least personally, I kept comparing everything to what Mike was doing in his short-term rentals and nothing made sense. It was so frustrating. It
mm,
was like, I missed the boat. God, it was one of those things where, having hospitality and tourism in a extremely high barrier to entry market like Maui and being able to
yeah.
capitalize on transient vacation rentals was extremely appealing and financially rewarding. And so this started the process for us. And in fact, although that property was sold and turned into apartment buildings, we did end up purchasing a property that we were going to convert. Fast forward, we created it. And look, we weren't hostile people. We were doing
Mm,
something that we felt like we felt like we could crush, and we just went for it. And then we obviously had our backup plan of, hey, worst case scenario, we go purchase this commercial building that we want to convert, and we just run it as a commercial building. But in doing this, we hired a consultant from Europe and we started creating our vision. And at that point, this property we purchased at the end of 2018, and we were going through the conversion process, and then COVID hit.
yeah.
And we were faced with a business model that revolved around shared accommodations as the world was shutting down. And in fact, we ran into then at that point, several challenges. We had a hard money loan. It was a challenging time for us. And we dug in. When we look back today, we try not to focus too much on that time because there were so many hurdles that we had to overcome. But we ended up stabilizing that property and we made a pivot during COVID. Instead of sitting back and saying, well, let's just be at the mercy of the market and what's happening, we started going into attack mode. We took
Mm,
everything that we learned from the challenges we faced with the property that we purchased, and we said, let's keep going with our vision. In fact, we started knocking on doors. We went to all the existing hostels, and sure enough, During that time, the hostel owners, there was an owner that had been running his hostel for over 20 years. And you can imagine, there's no, if you remember, Hawaii was the most conservative state. So we were shut down for the longest. It
Yeah.
was very, it was, we're out here in the island where you didn't have people driving here. You couldn't fly here. It was literally ghost town. And here's Mike and I knocking on doors saying, "Hey, we've got this brilliant idea to go and with no hostel experience, we're going to go and go crush it in the hostel industry." But one thing led to another, and we created a win-win with the owner, and he was able to move on, and we took over, and we did so right as the island started to open back up. It was pretty
Mm,
amazing, the timing, and then what occurred from that point forward. So that was the start of our journey.
damn, there's so much to unpack. And before we go into the actual hostel side of things, I actually want to ask you both a question, and Nate, we'll start with you. But you earlier said you're both drawn to a strong why, right? And that why was freedom and
Yeah.
to be able to control your time and your overall life. Why were, and you also said before that though, you're drawn to real estate. And I'm very curious, why were you both drawn to real estate? What was the draw outside of the freedom aspect?
Well,
Was there something that just, yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
can share with you that this early in my life, when I came here, I didn't come to Maui because I was, you know, chasing, waterfalls and palm trees. I chased a girl and I met her at college. And
Don't we all?
yes, and she's my wife. Today we have two daughters, and so 30 years
Awesome.
later, we're here on Maui still. But that first after that first year, I followed her here during the summer, and she decided that she wasn't going to go back to college, and so I
Mm,
had this huge life decision to make: do I go back or I mean, there was very little. We're on this island, right? Like, what is there as far as career? And my
yeah.
mom did everything in her life to I was raised by a single mom to help us, from an education standpoint. She just believed deeply in education. And so here I am at this crossroads of, do I leave behind my education and try to forge my own path? And right about that time, I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it was like right when it came out. And
Yeah.
it really changed the way, and it gave me the confidence and belief that I didn't know what I was going to do, but that if I followed this game plan, that I could create this freedom. And I got into real estate not because it's was the first thing that I tried. In fact, I failed multiple times. I started flipping cars. I went to the number one restaurant and I said, "Look, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up because it's my highest upside." So I started as a busser, and then I funneled my money that I was making in cash tips into flipping cars. And then I saved up I got like $10,000 ahead, and then I got scammed and I lost it all. And I'm like, all
Uh,
right, well, it's not going to stop me, I believe. And so then I saved up another 10 grand, took me another year, and then I started day trading. Wow,
mm.
that went worse. And then finally, I'm like, all right, I just thought that real estate was out of reach for me as this 20-year-old kid, but I I said, look, I know that this is the path. And I asked my mom if I could have all of her contacts. She sent me her contact list because I knew no one, and bought a book of stamps, bought a book, thing of envelopes. I wrote a letter, I photocopied it, and I sent out an investment letter. And I purchased, I was, thank God, and an aunt and uncle believed in me, and they gave me 10 grand. I paid them back 20% in 6 months, along with the 10
Wow.
grand. And we purchased our first little house hack and turned it into a duplex. And that was really the start of why real estate for me. I
Mm,
understood. My wife and I owned this home on Maui, and we lived in the studio, and the three-bedroom paid the mortgage. And then we
yeah.
leveraged that after making it nicer. We put all the sweat equity into it. We pulled some refinance, pulled some money out, and we purchased the next step up. We purchased our second home. And so I recognize, look, this is long-term wealth building, and ultimately will provide us freedom. And so
Mm,
that was my path into the passion for real estate and what it could do in someone's life.
I love it. What about you, Michael? What got that going for you?
What got me on my path for real estate?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was the you guys both have this passion and a why to create wealth and freedom, but real estate seemed to be the vehicle. I'm curious on how and why.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I was raised by a single mom, and she was a go-getter. She was a real estate agent, but she was just an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, she ran a number of businesses as a kid. I got to see, she was successful as a Mary Kay salesperson and then a real estate salesperson. And then she had real estate brokerages. And so, although she wasn't necessarily a real estate investor, I got to
Yeah.
see that she was, involved in just real estate in general. And I don't know. I feel like I always wanted to be an entrepreneur for that purpose of being able to control my own time. And so, like Nathan, I mean, I started reading books. I started just looking at what was out there, and I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad. But one of the books I think that really inspired me was, I think it's called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. It's been like 20 years
Mm.
now, so if that's not it, but it's Gary Keller, I believe, is the author,
Okay.
and that led me to read another book by Dave. I think it's Dave Lindahl. Dave Lindell.
Mhm.
Again, it's been decades, right?
Both
It's been
great
a long time.
authors.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So those books I
Yeah.
read a long time ago, and I was like, "Wow," I was inspired. It got me thinking about the path of real estate, but really it hasn't just been real estate, it's been entrepreneurship. And so it's kind of a combination of sorts. I saw the opportunity after the Great Recession where there was this chance to purchase undervalued homes, in a community just east of Orange County, one of the most expensive areas to live in the country. There was this bedroom community. It was designed so that people could commute to either San Diego or to LA or to Orange County. And they built all these homes, and they were brand new and they're gorgeous. Like we're talking like 4 and 5 bedroom homes that were, brand new builds. And right, 2010, these homes were like ghost towns. These neighborhoods were ghost towns. There was literally tumbleweeds because the yards weren't being kept up, and these beautiful neighborhoods were sitting there like just abandoned. And I'm like, whoa, there's no way that this is going to remain like this forever. So that's when I really was like, I got to get into real estate. I need to buy these homes. I don't know. I guess it was a marriage of just this idea of wanting to be an entrepreneur and not exactly knowing how to do it, but knowing that, okay, if I could just get some money, I could buy these homes and then kind of take it from there. And so Nathan described, I came in, I had a goal, I was going to buy these homes. And then one thing led to another. And then we're talking and we're brainstorming every day. And we're like, hey, we should do something big. And so people ask me from time to time, like, what's my why? Why am I doing this right now? Initially I felt like that was kind of a tough question to answer because I'm very grateful, but with these vacation rentals and some other real estate that we own, I'm really, financially free. So now it's like, well, what am I doing? Because I could just go and sit on the beach. And during COVID, I kind of had no choice. It was just that was it. But I'm not wired that way. I have a passion to build and build something that's like tangible, something that I can see and feel. And that's what I think one of the reasons why I'm attracted to real estate. I delved into some other areas of entrepreneurship, but it was more of a digital entrepreneurship where I couldn't
Yeah.
really, it wasn't tangible. When I walk through a city now and I look at buildings, I'm inspired to be like, I want to own a piece of that building. I want to do something big. And so I guess the answer to the question of why I'm doing this really is of course, I want to take care of my family. They come first. Security, providing security for my family is super important. But from my own personal like motivation, I want to reach my fullest potential. I don't know what that is just yet, but I know that
Mm.
I have more to give. I have more that I can do. I want to do as much as I can in this life just because I want to see what I can do. I want to build as much as I can because to me, it's not the end destination, it's the journey. I love just, the challenges. Nathan walked through some of these challenges that we faced. And I think there's a natural parallel between, what you learn as being a salesperson and then the hardships that you face as an entrepreneur. And the fact that we went and we bought a building with the intent to convert it into a hostel, COVID hit, we had to pivot because no bank was going to lend to us right during COVID when we're talking
Yeah.
about shared accommodations. And we just kind of, dusted ourselves off and said, well, oh well, next, let's keep going. I think that a lot of times people are profiled where the focus is really on their success. And, we're not there yet, but one day I hope you're interviewing us and we're like, we're these guys, right? We're these,
Yeah, yeah.
huge empire builders, right? But whoever it is,
Yeah.
whatever successful person, there's so much glamour put into their success. But really, I feel like the victory so far for us, what I'm really proud of. I'm listening. We're new to this interview thing where people are asking us about our journey, and so we
Mhm.
haven't gone through this too many times. And as I was listening to Nathan speak about our journey, I kind of had this, wow, we've been
Yeah.
through a bit, and dang, I'm proud to say that we were able just to recover and get through that hardship and keep going. And then that leads us, of course, when you're ready to talk about it, like we want to talk about the success of our hostel, but man, I think it's really important to know that like it's not always easy. We got punched in the gut and we had to decide if we were going to keep taking on the potential for more pain and overcome that and keep going, or if we were just going to surrender and go back to just the security of like, having a job or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that really motivates me is the opportunity to see what you're fully made of, to reach your potential.
Mm. Man, you just got me pumped up. That's for sure.
Let's do this.
I gotta introduce you to my buddy David Ngati with he's over at Guesty. He's a chief evangelist officer, and he says the same thing. He's like, I want to know what my true potential is. That's why I push myself so damn hard and do these marathons and create businesses and have exits and do all these things. I want to see why I'm all about. You got to give yourself that opportunity. So yeah, you got me hyped up. But to get big, oh my gosh, it's so hyped up that I can't even talk now. But to get back to the part of the hostel, so you guys convinced this guy to basically move on from his hostel after 20 years. And now you take over and you had the best timing to be able to open up. I think we talked about this on our pre chat. You guys have broken that stigma of hostels for me, at least. When I saw your website and I saw the properties and I read your guest reviews on Google, like I went and did a little bit of research and did all that stuff. And I'm just impressed. And I can tell that you kind of applied some short term rental knowledge to the experience and all that stuff. But you've broken that stigma. So let's talk about Howzit Hostels and the brand you're building behind the scenes, specifically the two that you have now. So I would love to, Nate, if you want to kind of tell us about that carry on post. Let's talk about opening day. Let's talk
Okay.
about opening day real
We'll
quickly.
talk about
Yeah.
opening day because that was crazy. But I also want to address one of the advantages. So I listened to you and Isaac French talking, and when you had him on, and one of the things
Love
that
Isaac.
yeah, and one of the things that he said is, look, I'd never done this before. I didn't
Hmm.
come from hospitality. I didn't come from experiential stays, right? And he said, and I think that that was an advantage. And I think that that's so important in our journey
Yeah.
is that I've never stayed in a hostel. I knew nothing about hostels. Mike stayed in a couple of hostels when he was, just out of high school and between high school and college and traveling the world. But I didn't even know what a hostel was really. And I think that that's really important because when we decided to go on this journey, what we did know is we knew people, right? And
Mm.
so if you go on our website and you look at the six human emotional needs, those six human emotional needs drive behavior. And whether it's in a hostel or whether it's in, we have a ladder of growth that we're looking at in hospitality overall. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with people and what drives them. And so we said, look, we may not know everything about hostels. So let's hire a consultant, but also let's go look at human behavior and go, how can we attack each one of these human emotional needs? How can we fulfill them for people? And so we had a little bit of a different mindset. We came from a real estate and business mindset and from let's just go and break down barriers. Let's go break stigma
Yeah.
and let's do it to our standard. And that really it paid dividends. In fact, when we meet a lot of other hostel owners or different people that know about hostels, they go, "You guys aren't hostel guys," and and people will come into our hostel and they're like, "This isn't a hostel," and so I think that part is really important to our story and to our brand. But to go to day one, this negotiation with our opening day we knew like we knew nothing. And in fact, not only did we know nothing, but as the market started to improve and the doors started to open to Maui, the owner was like probably feeling some potential regret. Like, oh my gosh, the world isn't over. And and so at that point it was like, I'm sure he was kind of going back and forth. And in that, he didn't want to share a lot of information. So not only do we not know anything about hostels, but we had very little information to go off of. We knew nothing. So one of our saving graces was because it was COVID, the consultant that we hired was available. And we said, "Hey," he offered, he's like, "Look, if you guys want, I will fly out there for the first month or two." And,
Mm,
we'd already been through creating the team and hiring our team and all of that. And he said, I'll come out there and help you guys, open up and run it. Cause we had talked about actually shutting down. And he
mm,
said, don't shut down. He said, the learning opportunity that you guys are going to have to just go through this you know, to go through everything that it's going to take, he's like, will be invaluable to you. And I'm so grateful that we listened to his advice and that he came over and helped us launch. But man, it was like we knew absolutely nothing. And the team that we inherited, the few people that we inherited had very different vision than us, and everything
yeah,
was the way that we do things. And so to navigate through all of that, it was crazy. So um I mean, and then within the first 6 months, anything that could go wrong did. There was a lot of deferred maintenance. We had storms
yeah.
come through that, ceilings collapsed on guests staying with us that left in the middle of the night, plumbing overflows that occurred. We had to actually shut down the entire plumbing system, and we got, porta potties in the alleyway that our guests had to use. And it was like, if it could go
Oh,
wrong,
no.
it did. But we also learned a lot about the hostel community during
Mhm,
this, and it really helped us fall in love with what we were doing. The hostel community itself they're really, I'd say, built on darn good people that want to come together and that care more about, the bigger picture than just themselves. And so during any of these challenges, it's like we'd have people offer to pick up a hammer and help. Like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help you guys? And they
yeah,
were so grateful. Here we have porta potties in the alley, and they were so grateful that we did that. That we're like, instantly made decisions to make it happen, and just kind of thinking back on how we started to recognize that, man, this is a really, really cool culture. It's a great group of people. It didn't matter, who you were. You had a place to come together where you were valued and could
mm,
experience connecting with others in a really special and unique way, and to really experience what the place of Maui, the true culture, has to offer. So it was a crazy time, and it was Mike describes it a lot as, we were drinking water through the fire hose for sure, but we learned a lot in the
yeah.
process.
Baptism by fire for sure.
Yeah.
Did you when did you guys do the renovation of that property? Because I know you guys have kind of done a lot of work, obviously, since, porta potty alley days, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So, can I touch upon the stigma real quick?
Of course. Yes. All right. I'm back. Sorry to interrupt, but you have to hear about our partners and friends at Hostfully. Not only are they an amazing property management software, they're an amazing team. I've been friends and partners with Hostfully for over 4 years now, and it's been an amazing 4 years. I can't complain because as I continue to grow my business with our property management company, they continue to update and grow their products and features within the Hostfully platform, and it just gets better over time. So, with us, we have a unified inbox, we have amazing marketplace, not only for the rest of our tech stack to integrate, which is awesome because I work with so many people, but then the third piece is the distribution is built in. So you don't have to fully rely on a channel manager. You can actually rely on the amazing integrations that Hostly has with Airbnb, Verbo, booking.com, Marriott, Homes and Villas, you name it. They have what you need in order to get your inventory, your properties to the right people. It's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm going to tell you this anyways. You're going to get a special deal with Hostfully with the link in the show notes. You'll just have to let them know if you love the product and then just tell them that we'll send you. So that way you can get that amazing Slick Talk deal. And of course, we're back to the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
I love the fact that people have this stigma for hostels because I feel like we're early adopters. We're not hostile people. So we understand a lot of people when they think of the word hostel, it's either they don't know what it is or they think it's that horror movie or, even like it's funny, like any of the AI tools, if they listen to us talk, it automatically says like hostile, like you're hostile towards people.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like even the AI doesn't even know what a hostel is, right? So it's like this is in my mind, I think it's awesome because I know what a hostel is in my mind. My vision, what we see it being is it's not just the cheapest place to stay. And unfortunately, for a lot of folks, that's what they associate it with, right?
Yeah,
They think, oh, hostels are gross and I wouldn't stay there because they're just low budget places. And to be fair, a lot of them are, but not all of them. In fact, there
yeah,
is proof of concept very much so in Europe, but we're starting to see some really good operators here in the US that are doing a darn good job of offering these experiential stays. The question is, well, who are the types of people that stay in hostels? And to be honest,
mhm,
it's not me. I'm not going to take my wife and my children and go stay in a hostel, but that's okay. Because when I think about who's staying, the target demographic, when I look at our Instagram page or, when I visit the hostel and I see the groups of people or even the individuals that are now meeting others that are making lifelong friends. The idea, the stigma, the concept of a hostel to me is a gathering place. There
mm,
are plenty of cheap places to go stay. If you look on Airbnb, you can find places that are cheaper than staying at our hostel. But the difference is when you stay with us, you're getting an experience where you get to gather and meet others, right? It's a social environment. And so, for example, in Hawaii, man, you can get a great deal on an Airbnb. And if you go by yourself or with a friend, you can enjoy yourselves, but you're going to hang out on the beach by yourself, right? You come and stay with us, you're going to meet all these people that are of like minded interests, that are open and receptive to people of different walks of life, different languages, different cultures, different, you know, just it's like a melting pot. So that's what really thrills me about the concept of hostels is getting people together. And we have purposely designed our hostels where everything that we do is designed so that people are in a sense kind of forced to the way that the flow, the entrance into our hostel, and the way that you have to maneuver through the hostel it forces engagement. You can't just slip out the back door.
mhm,
We made that a fire exit only because we want people to have to walk through the lobby and engage with others. So it's intentional. And so for me, I really like if people think of hostel as being this poor stigma, hey, that's more opportunity for us because they don't know. We're early adopters.
yeah,
We're new to this game. We're not hostile people, so we're not bringing any of this idea of what it should be based on what it was before. And very much with the shared economy developing, I mean, obviously Airbnb is huge now, but prior to Airbnb, the idea of staying in someone's home was really kind of, ooh, I wouldn't do that, right?
mhm,
But it's evolving. So just like now Airbnbs are nice and there's really good operators. We're similar to that in that we are really good operators and we hope that others join as well. We're an open book on what we do and how we do it because we feel like a rising tide floats all boats. And so if the more good operators enter the game, the better it is for us because it does change the stigma. There is an abundance of opportunity in this field. And so, we feel like we're early adopters, but there's so much potential. So I'm really bullish on hostels. Obviously, I could go off on a tangent, but I just wanted to address that because hey, I'm okay with the stigma, but we do have to sometimes communicate that. And when people go to see our website or if they stay with us, they're blown away. They're like, oh my gosh, this is a hostel. This is incredible.
yeah. No, listeners, check out the links in the show notes. Check out the website because when I went on before, I think, how did we get introduced? We got introduced some way or form, but I remember going to the website and be like, "This is a hostel? This is way nice. Like this, I would stay there. I don't travel, and I've never stayed in hostels before, but I don't travel and stay in like vacation rentals. I usually stay in a hotel. But I was like, I would actually do a solo trip to Maui and go stay in a hostel and get to meet some people because usually when I do travel, it's by myself. I don't really have like a friend group that likes to or can travel as often. But anyways, tangent for another
Yeah.
day.
You asked
Uh,
me a question. I can't even remember what it was. So if you want to go back to that.
yeah. Yeah, let's talk about kinda like renovation process because you guys' hostels are so different. You have broken that stigma, and I think that's where I wanted to kinda get your thoughts and approach because I can tell, that there are, like, private areas, right? I can book a private space to sleep in, or I can go into the co-living space. You've done it so well where I think it's a well-balanced, product. And so I think from, the porta potty alley days to where the product is today. What was that renovation process like, and how did you guys create the brand? I would love to, yeah, especially not being hostel guys yourselves, right? Like, how did you come up with, how's it hostels and all the fun stuff behind the actual name and brand itself?
Yeah, well, I'll
Yeah.
give credit to Nathan. He came up with the name Howzit, which Howzit is, it's slang in Hawaii. It means like hello, how's it going, right? It's short for, how's it going? And so it fit really well. And if you look at our logo, it's the HH Shaka. So it's awesome. We hired a 99 Designs, man. That's all it took, and they
Yeah,
figured it out. And so yeah, we came up with that brand. It just we saw Nathan came up with the name. I was like, that's perfect. Yes, let's
yeah,
do it. And then we
yeah.
came up with the logo. Kind of went from there.
No, I think one of the things that as we've gone through this process, you start with a name. We've had a couple people question the
Yeah.
name, and then it's like, oh well, okay, well that's a word that's used in Hawaii. But to me, it translates to so much more. When you say "how's it" to someone, um, what you're really doing is it's like here in Hawaii, it's a test. You go if you go "how's it" and you raise your eyebrows and they look back at you and it's like "how's it," you know that we're connected, right? And so there's these deep. It means I'm rooted. Like we share something
Mm,
in common. And I think that as we grow and expand, that the Howzit name, although it is associated with Hawaii, that the reality is there are so many things that are rooted in that greeting. There's such a deeper meaning that translates to hospitality and what we're trying to create and the approachability of what that means to a guest. And so although it in the beginning was just this cool like name of like How's It Hostels, yeah. And now it's transformed to How's It Hospitality and into, future brands that we create in How's It Hotels and How's It Inns and different things that How's It is this connective piece that is really, really important
mm.
to our roots.
I love that. And I remember talking to you guys because I was like, is this something you just want to scale in Hawaii? Is this something you want to take global, national? And you guys had a great vision for it. So not just limiting yourself to hostels, but creating, I believe it's called Vortex, right? You have your real estate fund. Is that the like kind of separate arm?
Yeah, it is a separate arm, and we're we've been going through this process of all right, we've gone as far as we can solo with our company, and as we go and grow, Vortex had an internal meaning to us. It was
Mm,
like they called me Captain Vortex at work because I was all about vision and manifestation and
yeah.
creating discipline of thought and all of these things. So when we created this original name, it was like Vortex Investments, and that kind of followed us through. But as we go and really build out that arm, the name Vortex will be replaced
Mm,
by Malama Capital. And
I love
Malama here in the Hawaiian Islands has a really rich, deep meaning of to protect and to care for.
it. Mm,
And I think that as we look at growth and we look at the growth of our brand and we look at being stewards of others' capital, that is we're just we are going to grow, but we will always ask ourselves the question at what cost?
mm,
We will not allow growth alone to be the motivator. We're going to grow where we've proven profitability, where we've proven model. And sometimes that might be a little bit slower than what we want. But at the end of the day, we feel like from a responsibility standpoint and from a true long term wealth building and for our partners and our investors, that's really the philosophy of Malama is to protect and to care for. And that's just critical to our value system.
I love that. And I kind of want to go back actually to your second property. Was it easier the second time around? Or
Well,
I think
yes.
so. Heck yeah. Like, can I? All right, can I dive into this a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
All right.
definitely.
So we're documenting our journey, right? We're
Yeah.
going through it right now. This is like a live capture of where we are in this journey. And we have this huge vision. We're going to grow to be a $400 million company. We've got this aspiration. We've got this vision of how we're going to do it. But let's be honest, you got to start somewhere. And when we started,
Yeah.
we didn't know anything. We really didn't. We weren't hostel people. So we bought this hostel. We got a smoking deal on it. We opened our doors. The COVID surge hit, and we were just lucky because we had all this cash coming in. And we were just like, all right, well, let's take the cash and let's make some improvements. And
Yeah.
we didn't really have this, we weren't like coming from this background where we had all this experience in hotel development or budgets or capital expenditure forecasting and all this. We were just like, well, let's just take the cash and let's throw it into the business. And so, yeah, we did budget, of course, but it wasn't as like sophisticated, right? And so I think that's
Yeah.
important to communicate because going through that process with our first one gave us the experience. Now we know, okay, we know what our soft costs are. We know what our operating margin is, profit margin. We know what it costs in terms of renovation, more or less. And it's given us it's been an education. So we've learned by doing. And so as it relates to our second location, I feel 100%. Yeah, we were a lot more confident in budgeting and forecasting. And I think that's a really important lesson because we've bootstrapped. We've done this all ourselves to start, but as we progress and now we pivot to scaling and raising capital, we have these first two under our belt, which I've always referenced. That these are our prototypes. This is where we're going to learn and we're going to make some mistakes and
Yeah.
we're going to overcome those and we're going to refine. We're going to become more efficient. But I've always looked at Maui was our prototype, and that's one of the reasons. Back to your question was, okay, talk about the design. Like, how did you guys do it?
Yeah.
Go about doing this? I think it's really important. Like, we wanted to invest into our first one, maybe even over invest into it because we wanted to prove that we are capable operators and we wanted to have a tangible prototype to demonstrate because we knew from the very beginning we weren't just going to buy one location or two, we were going to scale. And
Yeah.
ultimately, if we're going to go raise capital, starting out when we did, we knew it was going to be a few years down the line. But when we got to that point, we wanted to have something to show investors, be like, look, this is what we're capable of. So we invested in hiring professionals. And to me, I feel like this is one of the most valuable lessons is coming from this background where, yeah, I've got experience with short-term rentals, but I'm not this seasoned hotel investor, you know, but I can
Yeah.
find people that have experience in this. So I went and I looked at one of the leading hostel companies in Europe and use them as kind of a template. So they're called Generator. They're massive, $1 billion, just huge company. I don't know
Wow.
what their value is, but look it up. It's huge. They're doing very well. And what sets them apart is they're very design forward. They're not just a hostel that has beds and is cheap. It is very much what we have been describing as this new wave experience, design forward. And so I started looking at how they do things, and you go on Pinterest, and one thing leads to another. You type in generator, and you see advertisements for other designs. And so I ended up going through this rabbit hole and finding a designer that designed the Moxie Hotel in Denver. I called them up
Ah,
and I was like, I know there's probably no chance you're going to want to work with us, but we got this project in Maui. Would you have an interest? I mean, they design these huge hotels, right? They're this
Yeah.
big design firm. And to my surprise, they're like, yeah, sounds interesting. Let's check it out. So we got this really, big time, like really, really experienced designer to help us, and they did a great job in going through all the programming. I learned all these words, right? And they did a really nice job of actually working with us in an affordable fashion to make sure that we could do it. I think they really looked at it as like a passion project. They bought into
yeah.
us and our story, and so that's where the design came from. We hired a professional. And that is an important point because what we've learned from then is that we can apply this for everything we don't know. We can go and find the people that know how to do things. Right now, we're doing it with this podcast stuff. We're
Yeah.
getting involved because we're going through this process of bringing awareness to ourselves. So whether it's social media or podcasting, we don't need to learn everything ourselves, but we become experts in finding the people that can help us to to propel us in the direction we want to go.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that
I'm
that's
a big
huge,
fan of
Mike.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was JNS, by the way, Nicole Nathan, the design team from Denver, her and Blair, and Mike's right. I mean, they're huge and they design the Moxies and like we were in the Moxie in Paris just for a night before we went down to Spain, and my family was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so weird. This hotel seems like your guys' hostel." And I'm like, "Well, there's a reason for that, right?" But yeah, I think that Mike has done an amazing job. He is an extremely high level executor. And he is very, very good at finding al- alignments. Like, we've said this thing since probably the first meetings he's ever been in of mine, when it was success leaves clues. You don't need to go recreate it, right? Success leaves clues. So how can we go and mirror, and where I feel like sometimes people get so caught in, it's going to take them a year to learn all of the stuff the hard way. And if they just took a moment, slowed down, said, who does this the way that I want to do it? And then
Yeah.
how can I hire people that have either worked with them or understand or aligned with that? And Mike's done a really unbelievable job in like every area of our business. The same thing goes for how we've integrated technology. He's gone and like found the different alignments of what's the most successful way to do this, from property management systems, from integrating guest, experience, from reading books of, he read a book early in our journey in the hostel at the perfect time, called Delivering Happiness,
Mm.
the Zappos book. And he came out, he's like, Nate, you got to read this. And he'll go give me whatever he says to read, I'll go and binge it in like a day. And then I'm like, all right, I'm up to speed. But
Yeah.
man, we made our entire team listen to it. And, this is where we really started with the concept of obsessing over the guest journey, and then instilling processes. Mike builds things extremely well. So he looks at the processes and how can we go and take, I mean, in our meetings, we'll look at every single review that comes through and go, what's controllable? What's not? Let's look at the controllables. How can we create better processes and systems? And in him really attacking our business with this concept of our entire team revolving around obsessing over the guest experience, putting in the technological processes, the systems with our team in place. Within 2.5 years, we were awarded the best small hostel in all of North America, by the most recognizable hostel
Yeah.
source that there is, Hostel World. And I think that is a testament to his ability to execute at an extremely high level and to stay focused and to really help us align with the right people.
Mm. It's so well said. And I am curious. Earlier on, I think Nate, you said, you had some team members that you inherited with the first property, and kind of like, oh, this is how we've done things, and that type of mentality, right? Which we've all been in that group, or that office, or that work setting, where that was my big reason why I left my hotel job and went full time with the pod, because my boss, the owner of the hotel, said, I asked him, why did we give Expedia $400,000 this year? And he was like, "That's how it's always been. The OTAs are, they give us guests and do this." I'm like, "But we can do better. We can get more guests direct. We can get, people that book on an OTA to rebook with us directly. We can do certain things, blah, blah, blah." Oh, that's just how it is. And he was okay with giving away $400,000 to an OTA. But like, anyways, I would love to know your thoughts on the sense of, culture, and when you are such high executioners of processes and systems and all these other things, how do you communicate that and get that adopted within a team? Especially maybe a new team, or a team that's kind of hybrid, came with the property pre-renovation, stayed after type deal. I don't know the whole situation with your guys' team, but
Yeah.
would love to know and kind of go into that topic a little bit.
Well, I think that first of all, leadership is a passion of mine. And I think that
Mhm.
that's one of the things that hospitality provides that's unique in real estate is you have the fundamentals of real estate, but then you have this business, and this business is extremely it's human being focused, right? So,
Yeah.
which is really exciting for us to know. But so in that leadership style, I think that number one, when taking over a new team that probably has different values and has a different vision, that first of all, you need to identify what are their strengths, and are they someone that you're going to align with for the long run or not?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and once you identify that, then it's okay. Well, like we had, one of the original team stayed with us, and he'll still reaches out to us. He stayed with us for over a year, and he just was like so excited about our vision. And but where there was resistance, you sense that resistance. However, just because there's resistance in the beginning and there's not alignment doesn't mean you can just dispose of because
Yeah.
you're new and you need to accept. So it was like, okay, how can we make sure that this person feels valued enough? And look, you gotta look back and you might think differently, but you have to
Yeah.
value what they've been through and what they have, done. And then ultimately make that decision of, is this going to be a long-term alignment or not? And when
Yeah.
we recognize that, I think that we communicate pretty well and then start communicating expectations. And as you learn, you go, okay, now we can start to put in place the people that are really going to be able to carry the flag.
Mm, that's good. Mike, do you have any other pieces for it for yourself on when it comes to putting a policy into place or any type of operational thing, anything that goes into just the way you communicate with the team and kind of make sure it's executed properly at all?
Well, Nathan's the people person, right?
Okay.
So I'll notice something, I'll be like, "That ain't right." Like, and I'll be all pissed off, "The pillows aren't put in the right place," like, I notice everything, like, I am just observant, and so if it's not perfect, I'll just there's this term we use, we puke up, so I'll puke to Nathan. I won't lay into the staff because
Yeah.
he's really good at understanding what makes people tick, that their people are human, that they're emotional beings, and so that's just a skill set. That's he talked about in the beginning that we have very complementary skills, and that's an area where I'll just admittedly like that's not my skill set.
Yeah.
I'm okay at leading people, but he's exceptional. So I lean on him, and a lot of times when it comes to communication. But he's also sometimes a big softy, and he'll be like, oh, it'll be hard for him to like communicate if it's going to cause someone pain in some, but
Yeah.
not all the time, but like in certain scenarios where there's a relationship there that's a really tough thing to do, and so sometimes I'll come in and be like, "Nate, this is it's just the way it's gotta be, man," and so he'll be like,
Yeah.
"Alright, fine, cool."
Yep. It's a good balance. We have a really good balance that way. And in leadership, you got to earn the right, And so I will probably be the most challenging person at times and the highest expectation and the strongest communicator that there is. But that only happens if it's already been earned.
Mm,
I've built that relationship and I'm going to balance that on the other side of it where I've lifted people up enough and built them up enough to where they know that I've earned the right to, hey, look, we're about our leadership team is about we just talked about it today, 100% accountability from
yeah.
Mike to myself all the way down. Each one of us is 100% accountable for everything that we do. And so when you really are aligned in that and attack that, you can create some pretty incredible results.
Mm, I love it. All right, to ask my final question prior to wrapping up, and this is gonna be both answers, or both of you can give an answer. It's what's one piece of advice for any hospitality founder or entrepreneur that wants to continue to be in the long run? They want to be here for 20, 30 years, right? Like I think we've seen some names pop up and then disappear, and times get tough and there's a lot of things outside of control. But for those who are here for the long run, any advice as an entrepreneur in this industry?
Want me
Well,
to
Anyone can
start?
go.
dang, I mean, I would just say,
Or is it-
Will, honestly, like, we're new to the industry, so that's a tough answer, like, to be completely
Yeah.
candid, all I can do is speculate, right? I can just say, "Well, let me look at what others are doing." That's how I wanna learn. I wanna look at who's been successful in this and who hasn't and why. So, I don't have all the answers, but I'm a constant learner. For me, I think that I am more inclined to be conservative in
Mhm.
areas of growth. So, I hate to lose, I would say more than I love to win. And so I'm
Mm.
motivated by protecting what we've got. And sometimes Nathan will balance me out a little bit. He can be, he can have a broader vision than me in that regard. And so he can see the big picture and kind of communicate to me like, look, if we're going to grow, we're going to have to take some calculated risk. We're going to have to understand like what is the big picture and position ourselves for that win. So for me, I guess it's really tough to answer to give advice to others right now because we're in this journey, right? From what I know, just reading about others is Don't take on more than what you can handle all at once. Do so
Yeah.
in a controlled manner.
I love it. And I asked that question knowing that you guys quote unquote are new in the sense of I don't think you have to be a 20-year veteran to give a good piece of advice. I think the experience you guys have gained from two hostels in itself and real estate and being parents and all this other stuff could you can give advice from anything. So that's why I want to make sure just because you're new doesn't mean you can't give advice. Because
Yeah.
we got listeners all over the world that are at way different stages of their career and their businesses. So yeah, I always find it very helpful.
Yeah, and if to me, if we're specific about long-term success, it is one of the strengths that we brought to the table. I felt like, studying dynasties was a big study in growing our sales team. And the reason for studying dynasties is it's like, well, anybody can pop, right? Right circumstances, right things happen, but once you've had success, how do you sustain it? Right?
Yeah.
How do you continue that over the long run is really big. And so for me, when I look at our long-term success, there's really two main components. And the first one is people and team, right?
Mhm.
I believe that if you have the right character and the right people and the right team that are aligned in doing something, that anything is possible. And so to continue to put focus into building the team is a critical component for us as we grow, having the right people to help us grow. And then over the long term, like I'll just give you an example about our existing team. I mean,
Mhm.
we as we win, we want our team to win. And so we're setting up our hospitality company to provide equitable pieces of our growth so that everybody is in alignment, right? We want people to make 10-year, at a minimum, 10-year commitments to us, our leaders. Like, and when you do that and you get aligned, so that's the part about team. But then, you look at hospitality and to me, it doesn't matter if it's a hostel or if it's a boutique hotel, it doesn't really matter what type of part of the asset, hospitality asset group it is. It is about understanding how to fulfill the needs of people, right? That's really what it's about. It's like, okay, if we're fulfilling in our hostel for a female solo traveler security, that is critically important to them, and we know that and we fulfill that and we make them feel in their journey safe and connected and all of those things, then ultimately we have earned this feeling of when that person leaves a memory that is unbelievably positive and will continue to allow us to grow. And I use that example, but if we had a luxury resort on the ocean, what we may be fulfilling is we may be fulfilling the feeling for a father that he has provided for his wife and his two kids, that they're in awe and they wake up in the
Mhm.
morning and he hears them laugh, he hears
Yeah.
the joy that they're experiencing and he knows, man, I have worked extremely hard in my life to provide. So as the as you look at what you're providing to people, are you starting with ultimately what they need fulfilled? And if you can do that and then align it with the right team and the right people, that's long-term success.
I love that.
Dang,
You
dude,
just
that
got me.
answer's way better than mine.
I was gonna say, you
It's
just got
because
me
you went
hyped up
first and you got to think
again.
about it.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's why we compliment each other.
Amen. Amen. You both got me hyped throughout this whole episode. I feel like I just had another cup of coffee, so I'm good. Dang, that's good. Man, I've really enjoyed this episode. You guys bring so much to the table, and I think it's so refreshing for myself as a host, and then for my listeners who are going to hear this to hear something new, a new perspective, new type of asset class in the industry. So, one, thank you. Two, I'm rooting you guys on. I can't wait to meet you guys in person. And for all the listeners, make sure you grab all the links in the show notes. Like, follow, subscribe, tune in to any other podcast episodes these guys are on. Got their own podcast launching soon, so we'll make sure to link that in there. It's just really exciting stuff, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing and taking the time to be on the show today. All right, Slick Talkers, grab the links, and we'll see you guys again next week. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.